Good morning. I am Pastor Kathy Ottinger, and together with Pastor Nancy, with Bev Leslie, with Becky Timerding, Eric Timerding, our wonderful handbell choir, our great tech team, our fabulous ushers, our wonderful acolytes, we welcome you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. It is a joy to be with you on this finally somewhat cooler Sunday morning. Thank you for being here. Friends who are in the sanctuary, it's our joy that we get to worship with our friends online. So if you could just take a quick moment and turn around and look at that white camera on the wall. Wave, say good morning. Good morning. We're so glad to be able to worship together. It is a joy to be the family of God in this place and at this time.
I am here with Karen Gould, who is the CEO and president of Operation Classroom, an Indiana-based mission project. Some of you have been here long enough to remember that we go back at least 20 years probably with them. Anybody remember gathering things for the Kissy Clinic, all the baby items? Okay. Once upon a time, that was connected to Operation Classroom. It's moved off on its own. But we have been donating scholarships and things for years, and periodically we like to have someone come and tell us more about it who's been there. And so I'm going to turn the mic over to Karen, and then there's going to be more at the luncheon, and you'll be able to hear more. I'm going to come down the aisle and distribute some lovely postcard-sized things that they have. It has a way to donate, because, of course, this is a mission project that we need to support. There's a way here. There's an address. You can put it in the offering plate if you want to. There'll be ways to donate. We'll be collecting the rest of the month. So let me stop talking and let Karen do her thing. Thank you.
Good morning. I do have to tell you, though, if you were in Africa singing that song, you'd be out in the aisles, you'd be dancing around and clapping, singing that song. I am so happy to be here with you this morning to share about one of my favorite things, Operation Classroom. I've been involved for about 10 years. I made my first journey in 2014. I'll be going back to Sierra Leone in October of this year. Operation Classroom is engaged in mission with the Sierra Leone United Methodist Conference and the Liberia United Methodist Conference. And it's been around for over 38 years with Hoosier Methodist. And the work that we now do in Sierra Leone, their bishop asked us to help young people find a way to have a job. They have over 70% unemployment in young adults, and that's not good for any country to have that large a group of young people just milling around doing nothing. Liberia, we continue to give scholarships because their government does not pay for any education past primary school. And with the poverty, I looked up last night, right now Liberia is around the 9th poorest country in the world. Sierra Leone is the 13th poorest country in the world. And when you go there, you think you've seen poverty. There's poverty that we can't even imagine here. But without further ado, I have a little video that I want you to see. And you'll see pictures of the Tayama Enterprise Academy, the school we've developed with the Sierra Leone United Methodist Conference. That's a senior secondary school, but they also are learning a vocational trade. And then we have entrepreneurial courses at the school to help them understand how you develop a skill into a business, which is really important. And we just finished our 5th year at the school. And in Liberia, you'll see students in uniforms. Most students in both countries wear uniforms to school at all ages, from preschool all up through high school. But in Sierra Leone, you'll see them in regular clothes because they're actively working in agriculture or engine mechanics or in building trades.
This morning's scripture reading comes from Psalm 95, 1 through 7. Oh, come. Let us sing to the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come into his presence with thanksgiving. Let us make a joyful noise to him with songs of praise. For the Lord is a great God and a great King above all gods. In his hand are the depths of the earth. The heights of the mountain are his also. The sea is his, for he has made it, and the dry land which his hands have formed. Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord, our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Oh, that today you would listen to his voice. The word of God for the people of God.
Good morning, friends. So part of why I picked that particular psalm is because it speaks about the glory of God being everywhere, right? So when we talk about coming into God's presence, we are always in God's presence, right? We, when we open our eyes in the morning, when we close our eyes at night, we are always in God's presence. One of the things that we experience in church and other places, though, is we experience a specific invitation to come into God's presence, right? And it's not that God is not with us in other places outside of this room or outside of this hour, but it is a way for us to be intentional about recognizing that there is a time when we are focused, right? We're focused on being the family of God. We're focused on God's presence. And one of the things that we're often encouraged to do is to extend that invitation that we've received to other people. I really want you to raise your hand. How many of you are members of this church or attend this church or are part of this church community because someone you know told you about the church or let you know that it was here? All right? Several of us. How many of you are involved in a ministry, a choir, or a women's circle, or a mission project, or activities because somebody encouraged you and said, hey, why don't you come and join me for that? How many of you are part of something because somebody, right? So even amongst us, we see that what we often need to come into God's presence or to become more involved in the church or to become part of a faith community, we often need somebody to invite us. Now, we have in the next several weeks multiple opportunities. Every Sunday we have an opportunity to invite somebody else to come with us to church, to invite somebody to watch online, to come to our house maybe, or to gather someplace and to worship online. Coming up in the next few weeks, we have multiple opportunities that are perhaps a little less scary for people, because sometimes it can be scary, Karen, right, to come into a new church. But next week we have Wild Church. That's a different opportunity for you to invite folks. The choir retreat is coming up, so maybe if you've been kind of like, maybe I want to join the choir. You know what? It's a lot easier to be a part of it if you bring your friend, right? So maybe you want to invite somebody. Maybe you want to invite somebody to worship in the woods. That's a different activity. That comes in September, right? So there are multiple opportunities for you to invite people. Now, how many of you are extraordinarily confident in your ability to invite people to church? Some of you are. But I recognize that many of us aren't. So that's what we're going to do for the next. I'm going to teach you how to invite somebody to church. So I'm going to need a volunteer to help me. Zoe, come on up. That would be awesome. Here you go. Okay. Thank you. There you go. Alrighty. So I come up to Zoe. Zoe.
Yep.
I was wondering if you would like to come with me to Wild Church next week.
Who are you?
Who am I? Now, that's the first thing you're probably worried about, right? I mean, you may want to invite one of your closest friends, but maybe you're thinking about inviting your backyard neighbor, right? Or somebody that you are a part of a club with, right? And what you're really worried about is that you're going to ask them to come and that they're not going to know who you are, right? And that's embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. Jody, I don't know if this is accurate. I'm going to guess that, in fact, no one has ever died of embarrassment. It may feel like it. But you know, I saw something that psychologists actually say that embarrassment is one of the easiest feelings to get through, right? If you can kind of just not take yourself seriously and just let it go, embarrassment passes pretty quickly, okay? So if that person says, "Who are you?" you can just say, "Oh, I am so sorry. I live behind you. We've seen each other a couple of times. I'm Kathy."
Oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm Zoe.
Nice to meet you. Sorry. So there you go. Easy response. Okay. So I need a volunteer. Zoe.
Me.
So now you're pretty confident, right? Now I'm inviting one of my best friends. I'm pretty confident about this. And so I come up and I say, "Hey, Zoe, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
How are the kids?"
They're pretty good.
They're good?
Yeah.
Would you like to come to worship in the woods with me in September?
How dare you? You have insulted me and my family. You have brought dishonor on your house. Never speak to me again.
Is that what is on? Is that what I? That is what I wrote. Okay. Now what that is, that's shame. And that's different than embarrassment, right? That's the other thing we're afraid of, right? Is that I'm going to invite my friend and that somehow my friend is going to be so insulted that it will irreparably damage our relationship and we will never speak to each other again. Now, is that likely? No, it's not likely. It's not likely. So, shake that off, right? All right. Can I have a volunteer to help me with the next one? No, I think Jody waved her hand back there. Yeah, come on up. Or stay right there. I'll come to you. Well, come here so the camera can see us. All right. All right. I want you to take that. I've got a line for you. There you go. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Hey, Jody.
Hey, Kathy.
I was wondering if you wanted to come to Wild Church with me next weekend.
I already go to church.
Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome. That's much more likely, isn't it, right? Right? That's much more likely. Your friend's not going to be insulted that you don't know that they go to a church. They're likely to just reply, "I already go to a church." That's okay. In fact, that's great. And that's an entry for conversation. That's a way for you to become closer to your friend. Oh, that's fantastic. Where do you go? I go to Wall Street. We're doing this thing called Worship in the Woods. We're doing Wild Church. I've got a choir that I'd love to be, right? You just talk to, if they say they already have a church, that's fantastic, right? I need a volunteer. Deborah. All right. There you go. All right. Hey, Deborah.
Hey, how are you, Kathy?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, thanks.
Good. Hey, I was wondering, our choir at our church is starting up again in a couple of weeks. I wondered if you wanted to come to the choir retreat with me.
No, I don't go to church anymore.
Yeah, did you hear what she said? I don't go to church anymore, right? That's another thing we're probably afraid of, yeah? That's an okay response too. And that's a fantastic opportunity for you to be in conversation with that person. They may have really good reasons for why they don't go to church anymore, why they don't do church anymore, right? And that gives you the opportunity to be a friend to them. I'm not saying then to just like right away be like, "Oh, but my church is different. Don't worry, my church is." That's not what I'm saying. The next part of the conversation, if somebody has it, is to just be their friend, right? There will come another time, right? So, easy. All right. I need another volunteer. Zoe. All right, Zoe, come on up. Hey, Zoe.
Hey, Kathy.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
I was wondering if you wanted to come to church with me in 2 weeks.
Okay, but first tell me everything about Jesus, explain clearly why I should believe in him, and thoroughly convert me to Christianity right now. Begin by explaining the theology and doctrine of the Trinity.
Begin by explaining the theology and doctrine of the Trinity. Is that what I keep on giving you ones that I don't, okay. That's the other big thing we're afraid of, isn't it? Right? What if my friend wants me to explain the history of Christianity, to tell me the entire story of Jesus with, exactly reciting the Gospel of John word for word, right? What if they want me to explain what the Trinity is, or what, all the stuff we believe, and do we really believe that Jesus was God's son, and it's all our... It's not your responsibility. It's not your responsibility. God's got that part, right? It's also highly unlikely that somebody is going to do that to you. However, I will confess, Lynn, that I was that teenager who did go to my pastor and say, explain to me the theology and doctrine of the Trinity, because I don't get it. Yeah, of course I was. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen, right? You don't have to have the Bible memorized. What you can do is share your story, right? I know this Jesus. I know this Jesus. And here's what being a part of a church, here's what having a relationship with that Jesus has meant for me. And I would love for you to be a part of that too. I'd like you to just come with me to church, meet some of my friends there. It's a community that you'll really appreciate, right? But again, it's highly unlikely that somebody's going to be that specific. It's more likely that they're going to respond with a different question, right? So Karen, you volunteered, I saw you, all right? Karen, would love for you to come with me to church sometime. Would you like to do that?
Well, what do you even do at church?
It's much more likely that they'll say that, right? What do you even do at church? Right? And so you can talk about what we do, right? You can talk about that we sing together, we make music together, we pray together, we support each other, we challenge each other. We do learn about God, we learn about what it means to be human, what it means to be part of the family of God. We serve other people together, right? We try to make the world more loving, more whole. We try to heal, we try to help, right? So you can talk about all the things that you're a part of. It's much more likely for somebody to answer that, and just tell them what you do. Tell them what you do, all right? Need 2 more volunteers. Becky. All right. Becky, I was wondering if you would like to come to church with me sometime.
No.
And that's the thing you're worried about too, right? And if your friend, somebody you know, your neighbor, says no, you say, okay. So have you been watching the Olympics lately? Man, I couldn't believe that relay last night, right? And then another time, there's going to be other times. And if they say no to that, that's okay. There's going to be other times. And if they say no to that, right? It's about staying in relationship with people. It's about staying in relationship with people. So Eric, you're the last one. Eric, I was wondering if you would like to come to the choir retreat with me.
Yes.
See, that worked. But the thing is, I don't know about you, but I think sometimes we also are afraid they're going to say yes. Because if they say yes, now, right? Now I've got to be in community with that person. Now I've got to introduce them to the rest of my community. I've got to introduce the rest of my community to them, right? Sometimes that's scary. But let me tell you that however scared you are, the person you've invited is 10 times more scared. And for them to say yes was an incredible statement of their trust and faith in you. So, what your job then is to say, fantastic, our service starts at 10 o'clock. I'll pick you up at 9:30. We'll head on out. When you get here, you introduce Sandy, this is Zoe. Sandy, this is Gary. Gary, this is Sandy, right? You introduce them to people. You sit with them. Friends. Do not be that person who invites somebody. Karen, I'm so glad that you came with me to church. I'll see you after the service. So anyway, right? And leave them sitting by themselves. Okay? Right? You say yes. They say yes. Be in community with them. Right? So it's really that easy. It's that easy. Okay? So you have opportunities to invite folks to several things over the next few weeks. The first kind of different thing is next week with Wild Church. And I've asked Pastor Nancy to talk with us just a little bit more about that, so that when your friend says, what even is that? You have a little bit of an idea of what you can share with them. So, Pastor Nancy?
Thank you. You notice the microphone is down there. I don't have any questions for you to read out loud. But I do want you to get out the purple thing that was in the stuffer that was in your bulletin. Take a look at that. You've heard us kind of mentioning Wild Church in a general way. It's been on our slides. It's been in some of our publicity online. But I want to spend a few minutes telling you more about the whole idea, so that when you are inviting people, you will have some idea what to tell people, even though we've not done it yet. I want you to understand that this is the first outing, but it's really the first of what I hope will be a number of outings like this that are a different way of doing church. So, you know, a lot of times speakers do things like they make sort of an outline. Well, I always default to the who, what, when, where, why, and how outline. And I'm going to start with why, because I think it's important for us to understand why we would attempt to do something different. We spend a lot of time, money, effort in our regular services, so why would we be doing something different? And I think that's the first question. Part of this goes back to what you guys wanted. We have loved Worship in the Woods. It's always a big hit. We always have lots of people out there in Lapping Park. We're going to keep that because it's a big hit. But because we don't want to reproduce an outdoor worship service and picnic every month or even every quarter, in January, for example, that would not be probably a whole lot of fun. We're going to find different ways to worship outside because you ask for it. That's one of the reasons we're doing this. Next, and I want to, again, I always like to thank you for paying for my schooling. My most recent class was on mission. And in the class, we talked about what that word mission means. Now, when we talk about mission like Operation Classroom, we quite often think of places where we'll never go and we can never do what the missionaries do for us. They take the Word of God, they provide services for us. But we are all in mission because we have two things that we need to do as Christians. One is to do the inviting, which Kathy has laid out brilliantly for us, the pitfalls and the ways to work around that, the ways to be joyful about it. One is that inviting, to make disciples of Jesus Christ. The other part is being the hands and feet of Christ in the world. So when we go to Africa, we don't just go say, hey, come hear about God, but we set up a school. So we have those two ways of doing mission. It's all part of the greater mission. And so part of what we're doing with Wild Church incorporates both those things. Many places are doing, the Methodist Church and other places are having efforts, I guess you'd call them, or projects or attempts to do what they call fresh expressions. If you go on the Indiana United Methodist Church website, you'll see fresh expressions. If you want to read more, I can point you toward it. Just put that whole phrase in. We are attempting, as a church, as a denomination, and other churches as well, to reach out beyond the walls of the church. Now, for example, when the word was taken into the countries, the tribes, the groups to Africa, we didn't say, y'all come over here. We went there. We went to where they were. Likewise, in our modern society, we need to go where the people are. And they're not all in church. We know this, and I think the figure is 60% of the population does not go to church. So there's really more out there than there are in here. So it's important for us to view this somewhat as a fresh expression. It's a way, a lot of places are doing what they call dinner church, where they have a dinner and a talk, and it's church for them. Pastor Harley, sometime you can ask him about his experience doing church in a coffee shop, basically, and through heavy metal, which is not my cup of tea, but a lot of people liked it. So there are different ways to express ourselves in worship. So we have first this idea of a fresh expression, which is to go out to where people are and engage with them in a different way than we do in our typical worship on Sunday morning. The next is that we already have an existing creation care ministry started here. We have a specific group, Creation Keepers, that's working on projects. You know about their project to collect plastic, to represent all the plastic that someone has in a year to recycle. If you want to bring your recycling, we've got a way for you to do that here. But beyond that, many of us have, if you don't have a strip, we can get you one that says, I am a creation keeper. We all are becoming creation keepers. You'll notice that today in our luncheon, we're not using much paper or styrofoam. We're trying to use our dishes and our plates that we can wash. So we are on the path as a church, specifically led by Creation Keepers, toward creation care. And one way that we engage in creation care is to be engaged with the creation, to know what the creation is like, to understand it more fully, to spend time in God's presence in creation. The church as a larger institution, both the Methodists and many other churches already have efforts in this direction. We're talking about our new social principles, our revised social principles. Many of them relate to creation care. The Presbyterians down the block have what they call a green team that's been meeting with our creation keepers. So there is a movement afoot for creation care. So you have a convergence, I guess you'd say. We've asked for it. We have creation keepers. We have this idea of fresh expressions. It's all kind of coming together. So when we were thinking about a way to do church outside, I started Googling, which is what I do for a living pretty much. And there are two threads, and they're pretty much the same. In England, it's called Forest Church, because they have a lot of forests. And in the United States and Canada, it's more likely to be called Wild Church. But both of them are dedicated to worshiping outside, worshiping out in the creation. And they are a wide variety. Someone's backyard, and they meet once a month, or they meet every quarter, or they meet 6 times a year, and they follow different patterns in what they do. But there is a movement afoot that we can be part of that's called Wild Church. Now, I wanted to get something more inventive than that, and I just could not come up with it, so I thought, well, hey, they're calling it that already. We'll just join in. I will tell you that I'm also working in my head on a mild Wild Church, because some of our Wild Church efforts will be to places like the Falls of the Ohio or Charlestown State Park or someplace else that's a little more challenging to get to. But we will start with a very accessible place, and that's where I want to go on to is when and where. You'll see that's on here. We're going to the home of Bob and Janet Hill. Janet, wave your hand in case people don't know who you are. They have a lovely space that used to be a nursery, a business. There's a grove of trees. There's a meadow that has an area for butterflies. There's lots of flowers. There's some water features. It's a lovely place. Oh, some sculptures that are unusual. So it's a great place. It's not too far from here. If you need to know how to get there, Janet will be around to give you instructions. But you put it in your GPS, it'll take you there. Here's my instructions. You take Market Street till it turns into Utica Pike, and you go all the way into Utica until it dead ends at the foot of the hill, and you turn left. And that's a dead-end road, and you can't really basically miss it. I actually did sort of miss the entrance. So I'm going to mark the entrance for y'all so you can find out where the parking spot is. That's where it'll be. It is next Sunday, our first one. Next Sunday, we will not, let me repeat, not be in here. There won't be anybody here. So you need to go there, or Pastor Harley and I and Bob are going to get together and do an online version that will be streaming next week. So if it rains, please don't rain. If it rains, or if you don't feel like going out there, or if you think that is not something you should be doing, we get it, we understand that, so we'll have our online version, as always, a version. So who should be coming? Well, I mentioned that there are already existing ones. This is for everybody. Our children can be there. Heck, what a better place for kids to be outside and worshiping outside. It is fairly flat and fairly accessible, like I said. We will have people to help you if you need an arm or you want somebody to carry your chair. You can have people help you. There's a golf cart or two that Bob and probably Janet will be driving. John, okay, their helper, John. So there will be people if you need a ride up the driveway. The parking area is a little bit distant from the house. Now, as I said, this is for us, but this is also for our friends and people that we know that like the outdoors. There are many people that say, you know, I don't worship in church, I worship outdoors. Now, sometimes they're playing golf, yes, right, Larry? But there are people that is their church, and we want to include them in this expression of church. This is a way to invite some of those people that would be very comfortable outdoors. They may be reluctant to come into our sanctuary, but they might join you on a walk outside. So think about those people that you might be inviting that enjoy the outdoors, or won't darken our door but might join you there. Those are ways to approach this as an invitation. We're not putting out a big y'all come. Parking's a bit limited, but you feel invited to invite, please. We will make room. I will say that Bob's a well-known personality in the area, and Hidden Hills a known quantity that people have been visiting, and I'm a bit reluctant to just say, open the floodgates, because I think we could be overrun. But a personal invitation, that's what we're looking for. So what are we going to be doing? Well, this is where the backside of the handout comes in. And I want you to take a look at that, because there are some things that people have had questions about, so I put them all down here, and I won't read through them. I won't bore you with all that. But I do want to highlight, near the bottom it says Bob will give a tour of the gardens. This is a real special opportunity. So if you're making plans, try to stay and take the tour with Bob, because what we're going to be doing, let me explain the plans for next week. We're going to have a word of gathering of welcome together. It'll be a bit of scripture. Bob's going to speak briefly. We're going to then scatter and go and contemplate, look and listen and sense God in the gardens at the Hills House for about 20 minutes. We'll ring the bell. You can come on back. Janet and some of the ladies from Evening Light will have made cookies, and there'll be stuff to drink. And so afterwards, we'll have a chance to gather again, close things out, and talk with one another about what our experience was. So that's it. It's simple. It won't be anything elaborate. There are some hints. Carpooling if possible. I know that's not going to be possible for everybody. Don't worry about that if it doesn't work for you. But if you can put a couple more people in your car and come together, that'd be great. So as good models, Steve and I are going to come with Debbie Wonke, for example. She's on the way. We'll pick her up on the way out. So if you can find somebody to come with, that would be great. There's about 30 parking places, and if we, this is about 60 people, 60, 70 people. If we collapse it down into 30 cars, that'd be terrific. You can bring your own chair. There are some chairs and benches and things out there, and if you don't want to bring a chair, you don't have to. But if you like going in your favorite concert, take your chair for the outdoor concert with you, bring that with you. Certainly you want to be dressed for the occasion. No fancy church clothes. I'll have bug spray. Bring your own if you have a different kind you like. Like I said, we will be marking the entrance so you'll be able to find it. And I would suggest, just because if you're like me, even if it's simple, go down to Utica and turn left, you might get lost. So, give yourself a little time to get there, and it takes more than the little short walk to get in. There's a little bit of a walk. So just come a little bit early, mill around and talk to one another. I think at this point you should probably take out a pencil or a pen if you do not have my phone number, in case there was some issue and you wanted to call me. So if you don't have my phone number, here it is. It's 502-553-7189. 502-553-7189. Feel free to give me a call if you have any questions about this ahead of time. If we were really rained out, I would be sending out notices. We get the word out. But it's not going to rain. We're going to be at the lunch. If you want to discuss this more, of course, we can discuss it more there. I hope that explains enough, but if you have questions or comments, we'd be glad to take them and discuss them further. I may not have thought of everything. It's a possibility. So thank you, and we really are looking forward to our inaugural Wild Church.